Hi, my name is Timothy Nunan. I'm an American, a historian, and professor for trans-regional cultures of knowledge at the University of Regensburg. I'm fascinated by the League of Nations, the first international organization in history. Founded after the First World War, the League sought to maintain world peace. At its headquarters at the Palais des Nations in Geneva, representatives from dozens of countries sought to manage new international problems like pandemics, refugee crises, and cross-border criminality. Inflation, price controls, and transnational financial flows. These problems occupied the League of Nations then just as much as they do policymakers today. The League's members included European states like Britain, France, and Germany, but also states like Brazil, Ethiopia, China, and Japan. Like the United Nations today, the League of Nations was a forum for countries to try to resolve common problems of mankind. But also like today, the League of Nations struggled to deal with the legacies of colonialism. Most states in Africa remained European colonies, and the League even oversaw new forms of colonialism through so-called mandates in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere. The League of Nations failed in its mission to prevent another world war. Countries like Japan, Italy, and not least Germany embarked on wars of aggression, and the League did little to stop them. Only out of the ashes of World War II did some of the League's sub-organizations become parts of the United Nations as we know it today. But for many years, historians regarded the League of Nations as a failure. In recent years, however, historians have come to see the League of Nations as an early laboratory for the global problems that face us again today. The COVID-19 pandemic reminded us that viruses don't respect borders, and that distributing vaccines to the world's population is easier said than done. Armed conflicts like the Syrian civil war, the war in Afghanistan, or Russia's invasion of Ukraine have prompted many to flee their countries. How can we govern the world then without a world government? These are the challenges that we face today, and those that the men and women behind the League of Nations faced then. I want to know how they confronted these challenges. Fortunately for historians like me, the League of Nations has digitized its complete archival holdings. 14.7 million pages of documents, reports, letters, photographs, maps, and even audio recordings are now at our fingertips. Huge digitized archives like those of the League mean that historians don't have to travel to Geneva to work with these documents anymore. But massive data sets also pose new challenges for historians, used to working only with a couple of dozen, or at most hundreds of documents at once. That's why I've decided to offer a new course at the University of Regensburg. I call it History Lab. In the course, we'll learn about the history of the League of Nations and its relevance for current problems of global governance, like global health, refugees, inflation, or arms control. But students in my course won't just learn about the League of Nations. They'll also learn how to work with huge digitized archives like those of the League, and develop research projects in small groups. Along the way, we'll have workshops with archivists and librarians from the League of Nations archives in Geneva. We'll also dive into recent scholarship on the League as well. But we won't just learn how to research and write history. We'll also learn how to film it. As social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok become more and more popular, I'm concerned about how historians can bring their expertise into a media space that takes place in video as much as in print. So, students will learn how to script and storyboard their own short films about the history of the League of Nations and global governance. We'll take advantage of the University of Regensburg's production studio and put ourselves in front of the camera as we unpack and explain our findings in the League's archives. And special workshops in open source video editing programs will allow us to translate our vision into reality. It's all possible thanks to the generous support of a Freiraum grant from the University of Regensburg's Center for University and Academic Teaching, or ZHAW. Thanks to their support, I'll be aided by an international team of student assistants as we experiment with this new format. So, Come and join us this autumn and winter in Regensburg as we dive into the history of the League of Nations. And if you're interested in the project, please don't hesitate to reach out.